Okay, hopefully third time's the charge. So reduce the resolution. Bitrate is quite a bit higher. Hopefully this is fine now. Norman Scott, if you can let me know this is okay or not. Okay, so it looks like this is better for most everybody. Okay, again, sorry about this, guys. Quite a newbie when it comes to live streaming. Okay, let me bring up the game. Okay, let's try to pick up where we left off here. So, nose wheel steering. Okay, now we're off. So again, we are here at Spangdahlem, NRF 16, on the Cold War map by UGRA, which, as you guys probably already noticed, is planned to release later this month, quite soon. But even so, still cleaning up some bugs, some improvements, and things like that. So, what you're going to see today is, definitely very, very representative of what's going to be delivered, but there'll be a few tweaks and bug fixes and things like that, of course. Yeah, even without even knowing this is an UGRA map, just looking at the ground detail and the airbase, it's pretty obvious that it is. Obviously, I think you get some really big vibes from the Syria map in terms of the level of all the detail, the ground objects, the vegetation, UGRA maps being so high quality that definitely a different flavor than say other maps by other developers. But this is certainly a map I've been wanting to see in DCS for, geez, well over a decade. Honestly, if even a year ago, or maybe two now, if someone asked me what's the number one map I would want to see in DCS, this is actually it. So, in the couple of the previous attempts to get this right, repeat this again. So, this live stream is just to talk about this map. It's really not to talk about other endeavors that we're doing, and certainly not talking about um, uh, other third parties and particular drama with that. So, if you can, let's just try to keep the conversations to what we're talking, the subject of this video, please. And what we're going to do is, obviously, I'm here in the F-16 on the kind of the west side of the map, Spangdahlem. And then after that, we'll jump into an Apache near the Fulda Gap. And then after that, I think we'll jump into a MiG-29 up by the Baltic Sea. Then we'll jump into a Hind and fly around the frontier between East and West Germany. And you guys could laugh at my Hind piloting skills, which have deteriorated very badly over the years. Okay, let's set up a couple quick things. First, let's set that to auto. I don't want to have the low altitude screaming at me. That's good. Check traffic. Okay. Now for the MiG-29, while we do have a beautiful cockpit and a model working, it's definitely not ready to show yet. So when we show the MiG-29, I'm going to be, of course, using the Flaming Cliffs version. Okay, here we go. Nose wheel off. And rotate 12 degrees. Let's do a quick lap around Spang here first. I got a lot of light in the room, so my track guard's a little bit wonky. Now, one of the things you'll probably notice is that even with the most recent TDK or terrain development kit, there's different almost like design paths that a developer can take to create a terrain. So for example, with our recent Iraq and Afghanistan map, what we've done is rely much more heavily on actual satellite imagery at a rather high resolution and really, for the most part, forego hand-drawn textures. Whereas Ugr's taking a different path in that they use some satellite textures called clip maps, but it's much, much more reliant on hand-drawn textures. And as you might imagine, there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So for example, by using a more reliance on the satellite textures, particularly at medium to high altitude, it's going to look, literally photorealistic. Whereas when you get to very low altitudes, it can be a bit more blurry and less detailed compared to hand-drawn. And it's kind of the converse then with the other kind of design route of more relying on the hand-drawn, where you can have some really outstanding detail at the lower altitudes. But when you get to medium and high, it looks a little more, say, synthetic than photorealistic, which is kind of what you see here. And what we can also see here is, again, you can see the combination of hand-drawn and clip maps. So for example, the field textures around this town here, those are all hand-drawn, whereas this area right here is based on satellite textures and a clip map with a normal attached to it. If we didn't do the normals, it would look very washed out and much more blurry. So I know down low it can look a little bit odd because the normals add a shadow, but trust me when I say if you didn't have it, it would actually be a lot worse. That's going to have about 6,000 feet. And you can see here we're in a more of a southern part of the map, so a fair amount of rolling hills, which, particularly if you're dealing with a large IADS, down low it's going to make I think a lot of fun, whether it's flying an Apache, an A-10, or an Su-25 or Hind. This more southern part of the map I think is going to be really interesting. Okay, there's Han, which, as many probably realize, was a very important F-16 base during the Cold War. This is kind of what I was saying before here. When you're down at this level of altitude, with the level of detail they did, yeah, it's really hard to beat. It's really, really nice. One thing I'll also note is, particularly because of the massive number of unique objects that they put into the map, RAM requirement, both VRAM and system RAM, is probably a bit higher than most other maps. So we're recommending a minimum of 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and ideally recommended 32 gigabytes of system RAM. Also, really focused on the flying and thinking about what I want to say, so I'm really not looking at the comments so much. So if you're asking me comments in the chat, I'm probably not seeing them. If there is, though, something super important that Nine Line and Big Nui need to bring to my attention, they'll text it to me and I'll answer it. But for the most part, I'm not deliberately ignoring you. I'm just not seeing the messages right now. In terms of my system specs, I'm running on a 4090, and oh god, what's my CPU? It's like a 9900 something. I don't even remember, but basically, it's not the latest Intel, but it's the next one down at this point. In terms of graphics settings, most everything is high. I'm trying to think what I don't have maxed out. Yeah, pretty much almost everything maxed out except for some of the, very specific stuff you'd only use for creating videos. Everything else is pretty much maxed out. And kind of hard to see, but I'm looking at, yeah, around 135 frames per second or 138. And I had that set to maximize there because my refresh on my monitor is 138. Yeah, love me some river runs. Now back to the VRAM again. This is going to be the recommended, not min. You could do min, I'm sure, less than 8, but you have to probably need to lower some of your graphic settings, particularly like visibility settings and things like that, or else you're probably going to deal with lower frame rates, dropped out textures, things like that. So 8's the recommended. I think this is pretty unique for the map. I don't see any other place on the map where they have it, but Ugrd actually did do a race course here, and that's why you see these pylons. They actually have a race course built into this map. We're coming up on Frankfurt up ahead. Yeah, let's go to Frankfurt Airport, which I think is at the next steer. And like we said in the newsletter, it's going to ship with the summer textures, but then one of the growth areas, in addition to increasing the size of the map, of course, will be the spring, autumn, and winter textures. And hopefully we'll come across a few, but based on customer feedback, Ugrd also put in quite a few fixed SAM sites as well. And the amount of detail they put in those is pretty outstanding. Again, outstanding detail. Yeah, still well over 100 frames per second. Okay, so that's a look at the F-16 and some of the bases, NATO bases, kind of the far left of the map. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit this mission and jump into an Apache, and we'll start off near the Fulda Gap. Okay, close. Actually, I haven't been in Apache for a little while, so I'm probably pretty rusty here. So, so before we took off from here and we flew about here. Now this is the Fulda Gap. Well, actually, this is Fulda and the Gap's right around here. And this red line is the demarcation between East and West Germany. After we zoom in, you can also see, let me go to satellite. Yeah, there it is. You can see the frontier fence. Let me zoom back out. So again, we took S-16, we looked at this area. The Apache will look at this area. After that, then we'll probably run to a MiG-29 from Flaming Cliffs, not the new one. And I think it's over, it might be at Lubeck. And we'll take a look at here near the Baltic Sea. And then a Frogfoot will take a look at Germany. And then finally a Hind from the Warsaw Pact side. We'll fly that along the frontier between East and West Germany. Okay. Okay, hopefully this won't be too ugly. Again, I haven't been in Apache for a while here. Yeah, it's good. Nose tail trim. Yeah, I think this is, really one of the areas this map's really going to shine is with the helicopters and anything down low. Yeah, fly around Fulda here a little bit. Nice cathedral. And now let's head over to the border area. And I believe they have an army base up here ahead as well. Yeah, we have Army base directly ahead of us here now. Not a big one, but and Duger's been working on quite a few. I think about 80 some missions. They're going to be including with the map. But I'm really excited about all the really cool campaigns that this is going to spawn. This is what I was talking about earlier too. When you have the hand-drawn textures, you get just a much higher resolution capability. So when they're down low like this, particularly the hand-drawn areas, just looks really nice and just a much tighter look to the environment. But again, like most everything in life, there are trade-offs. Okay, here we'll just fly a little bit longer, and after that we'll jump into a MiG 29 and take a look around the Baltic Sea area of the map. And I think I remember reading somewhere that some folks have been asking for a more temperate green map, but again, it may have been my imagination. Okay, I think that's enough of the 64. Let's jump into a MiG 29 now. Okay, so we're gonna take off here at Dam Garden. Take a flight up to Bar, then Graz, Moldorf. Excuse my pronunciation. And again, over here we have the Baltic Sea. It's not a huge area, of course, but certainly more than enough to run carry operations. Okay, just one more time to stress because I know someone's going to ask about it again. This is the Flaming Cliffs MiG 29. It's not the new one yet. But you can also see a very different aircraft bunker than we had on the NATO bases. But again, expect nothing less from Uger with their level attention to level detail. I'll raise my view just a little bit. But in addition to the map, of course, really looking forward to the new MiG-29. I was taking a look at the cockpit actually just the other day in the internal version, and it's just I think it's the best the team has done yet. And it's actually it might be one of the first, if not the first, cockpit we've done using photogrammetry, and it really shows. No, I guess it'll be interesting. I haven't been in this aircraft for a long time. Okay, flaps up. Let's do a quick lap around the airfield. Now, speaking for myself, one of the things I'm really looking forward to, particularly with this map, is when we get the tornado. Because doing low-level strike missions in tornado on this map, I think it's going to be like otherworldly. Still, to this day, one of my favorite flight sims of all time was Digital Integrations Tornado, and been always wishing, hoping for something like that. So I think we're getting pretty close that we'll be able to realize that again. Actually, one thing I really still liked about that old product was their mission editor and some of the flight planning capabilities they had in there were actually really ahead of their time. And still some things actually, honestly, we don't even have in DCS yet, which I very much hope we will in the not too distant future. Okay, I set off to steer one. And again, as you might imagine, off our left wing is the Baltic Sea. And I'm sure most of you guys noticed the Uger actually added in the landing ships as well. Here we have a Warsaw Pact training range for ground forces. I think you've probably seen some close-up images of that have been released. Now, compared to the F-16 area and also the Apache area, as you might imagine, up here to the extreme north part of the map, it's flat as a pancake. So not a whole lot to hide using map of the Earth up here. And of course, in addition to all the major military airfields, Uyghur has added a huge amount of small civilian airfields, as well as just a massive amount of heliports all around the map. So you can see, like, even in this map, there's a quite a bit varied terrain, anywhere from the very hilly and rugged southern portions to the very flat area up here, the northern plains. Oh, missed my steer. We should take a look at it at a higher altitude. Let's bring it up to around 6,000 meters. Yeah, nice work on the water. And as you can see, they modeled all the depths as well. That's high enough. So you can see, particularly with the normal maps in the clip map area, I think it gives the terrain a much better look, particularly at altitude. Whereas without that, it has a much more washed out, blurry look to the terrain. But yeah, team did a great job. I'll do a buzz of the port up here ahead. And also mentioned in the newsletter, it's going to be released in 3 phases. And those are actually outlined in a diagram that was provided earlier. And you can see that in the later phases, it will be extended further to the east, west, south, and north. In particular, I think most of the expansion is probably going to be more towards the west to account for the Low Countries, because there's some very important air bases. Of course, it's also going to go to the east, include some of the additional East German bases, as well as some of the Polish bases in Western Poland, and to the south as well, into Germany, particularly Western Germany, even a portion of Czechoslovakia. Oh, I know people are going to be flying through that dry dock. Okay, now let's take a look at Berlin through the Frogfoot. So, going to be taking off here at Brest, probably mispronounced, follow the river, and then into Berlin here. And you can see where that is on the map. So like I said before, it'll be expanded to the west here to include many of, all of Luxembourg, Belgium, portions of, and the Netherlands, and some bases there. And to the east here, some of the Polish bases, and a bit to the south as well. Oh, and also, of course, it'll fleshed out this area as well, like Bonn in those areas, and also some of the, if I remember right, some of the RAF bases are in this area as well. So just like the MiG-29, the 25 we're going to see here, this is still the Flaming Cliffs version. It's not the new free Su-25 that will be coming later this year. Yeah, I like to start off on the bases just so you can see the level of detail in the different bases. And it's nice, they're not just, cookie cutter bases, they're all very unique and many unique objects as well. It's actually probably one of the reasons for the RAM requirements too. Oh, you know what? I think I went the wrong way. Might have enough room to take off in this long taxiway here, though. Yeah, I did go the wrong way. Okay, I'm going to be a noob and take off on the taxiway. You guys can hate me later. That's where I should have taken off. And one of the many power plants around the map. It's like a gas-fired plant. Yeah, I think for sure, particularly the Cold War era, of course, but also how great the low altitude environment is. I think Su-25 is going to be a really fantastic aircraft for this map. right way. Yep. And we'll be approaching the the western suburbs of Berlin here in just a couple minutes. Yeah, very interested to see how the map's going to look with the winter textures. I think it's going to look outstanding, actually. Because actually, like with the Cola map, at least to me, I think the Cola map looks so much better in the winter um, textures than it does the summer textures. And I suspect to a degree it might be the same with the Germany map, but we'll see. Okay, making sure I'm on route. So here we are. And one of the great things about, so many different unique structures in the game, it just gives you that many more options for potential targets. And honestly, it's particularly for something like the upcoming dynamic campaign, gives us a lot of options too for different infrastructure in terms of factories, POL storage, logistics, and things like that too. So I think it's going to be an outstanding map in many different ways. And as you can see too, it's I don't think my frame rate has dropped below like 120 uh, at all during this live stream. Now again, of course, this is a very empty mission and single player, but still, uh, compared to other maps, the performance on this has been quite good for me. Okay, now we're coming into Berlin proper, coming from the west, and I'm definitely violating international agreements of going into West Berlin. And I'll try to find some of the more noteworthy landmarks that Maestro's been really good about showing off in his little videos. So I spy a couple of them right now. Oh, another really cool thing. I think some of you have pointed this out. The rail network has been done really extensively. Yeah, there's a train. Speaking of, right there. So a lot of trains run around the map too, and of course you've seen the cars and stuff naturally. Now, if I remember right, this is the airfield used for the the airlift during the Cold War. There you can see the Berlin Wall down there. Okay, so that's a look at the fantastic job they've done with Berlin. And finally, actually, the one I've been dreading the most because I have almost zero time in it over the past couple of years is the Hind. So let's take a look at that and do a little flight um, around the no man's land between East and West Germany. Okay, 24. So here you can see the border. And I'm probably just going to fly directly to the west and fly up around it a bit. And you can see where it is right here. So you can see you're actually just off to the east of the Fulda area as well. Well, I'm not going to deal with that right now. So, okay, this should be interesting. A little bumpy. Actually, probably more than a little bit. Let's do a quick circuit around the observation post. Okay, and off to the west. And kind of like we saw with the F-16 and the Apache, this part of the map is extremely hilly. I'm going to call it mountainous, but definitely a lot of elevation, which again, it's going to be really great for a nap at the earth flying. Try not to fly into West Germany and make any international incidents. And despite the hills and the mountain vegetation, still a lot of really good long sight lines for long engagements. Let's head back out to the east here a bit. And the harvesters at work. It's nice. You definitely have a big difference between some really large urban areas, lots of areas just uninhabited, and areas like this where you just have lots of little villages scattered around. Head back out west, see if we can find the border zone again. Well, at this point, folks, so I think we take in a look at kind of the primary areas in the map through multiple different types of aircraft. Tried my best to point out some of the interesting things about the map. Again, coming this month, not too far away now. And, like I said at the top, this has been a map I've been wanting to see in DCS for many, many years. So even at a personal flight sim enthusiast level, really excited with this map. I think just a huge amount of opportunities, both single player and multiplayer. And as great as the Syria map is, I think this has certainly the potential to be just as good, and in some ways, perhaps even better. So, thanks for joining me on this rather rambling live stream. Hope you enjoy the map when it's out, and I will see you next time. Thanks.